Parents should be calling me first. Why would I be calling a parent? That was my mindset for my first year teaching. And let me tell you, parents did call me first. Not to introduce themselves, not to say thank you, but to go off on me. One called me going off about a snack, and another called me because she thought I put my hands on her child. Now come on, I need my job. Why would I do that? Yeah, I learned real quick, parent communication is not optional. Welcome back to CWM University, where we learn together. And today, we're gonna learn about the importance of parent communication. If you're a teacher or you're about to be a teacher, we need to talk in depth about parent communication because it can either make your life easier or make your year miserable. And let's be honest, most parents only hear from teachers when things are going wrong. So the second the school number pops up, they're already in defense mode. And on top of that, some parents feel that the reason their children are struggling in school is because of them, or they don't even know how to help them. So when that number pops up, they're like, what you want? Why are you calling my phone? Because they're afraid of what's going to be on the other side of that conversation. Most parents expect bad news when the school number calls their phone. Second thing is time. Teachers are busy. Parents are busy. Now you have emails, calls, and messages to return, and you're supposed to be teaching students all day. When do you have time? Some may say during your planning period. But during my planning period, am I not supposed to be planning? When do I make time in my schedule to make sure I'm communicating with parents? And then our admin wants proof that we're calling parents. Documentation. You can say you called a parent, but if it's not written down, and it's not written down what time, what date, and what y'all talked about, it never happened. So you're telling me I'm supposed to call somebody who probably already thinks I'm calling them for something bad. I'm supposed to find time in my schedule to call said parent, and then I need to document the interaction? How do you do this successfully as a teacher? First thing we're going to address is calling a parent that may think that you're calling them about bad news. How do you soften that blow when the parent answers the phone? This is your first time calling the parent. First, you're going to say, hello, this is Miss Such and Such, or hello, this is Mr. Such and Such. How are you doing? Ask the parents how they're doing. And then ask them, is this a good time to talk to you about your child? If they say no, ask them what's a more convenient time to contact them. And then see if that works for both of y'all schedules. Don't just go in talking to a parent about something bad that happened with their child, and this is your first time talking to them. Now, I put this on TikTok, and one of the people that commented on the video said, some parents want you to get straight into it. They don't want all this, how you doing, this is something good about your child. They want you to get straight into it. And I think it may just be a regional thing. Let me know in the comments, because I'm from the South, and you don't call nobody's phone getting straight to nothing. You need to say, hello, how are you? How's your day going? Before you say anything that you want or that you need. Because the first response you may get is, I didn't wake up with you. You need to speak before you start talking to me. Let's talk about a method that you can use when calling parents. I learned this method as the sandwich method. You say something good, you address the bad, and you end with something good. So I can say, good morning, Miss Jones. How are you doing today? I'm calling you about KJ. Do you have a minute to talk about KJ? She was like, yes. Okay, Ms. Jones. First, I want to say I love having KJ in my class. He is very talkative, very personable. And I told him one day, you're probably going to be a news anchor or a journalist because you know how to engage people. Then, she'll probably be like, yeah, he talks a lot at home, da-da-da. And then I'm going to say, because he talks a lot, we're struggling with him finding the appropriate times to talk in class, because KJ can talk to anybody, and sometimes KJ wants to talk during whole group instruction. I've addressed this many times with KJ. I pulled him aside to talk about it, but now I'm to the point where I need to talk to you as a parent. And I'm calling to ask you, is there any strategies I could use to help KJ in class to make sure that he's not talking when he's not supposed to? And then you can just listen to if the parent has any type of suggestions or anything like that. So I'll say, well, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me about KJ. We're going to do X, Y, and Z moving forward. And then if I need to, I will contact you. Is this the best way to contact you? Do you prefer phone or would an email suffice? And then I'm going to end the conversation. I'm going to say, thank you, Ms. Jones, so much for talking with me. I am excited about the things that KJ is going to do this year and seeing how I could use his skills to better the classroom. You have a good rest of the day, and if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to me via email. And I always say email because email was the easiest way and the quickest way I got to parents. Taking the time to call a parent, a lot of times you cannot do that during class time because you're engaged with your students. So when else would I have time to call a parent? Sometimes I have to do it on my planning period. Sometimes I have to do it after school. But email, I could email you back real quick if needed be. Or at this point, emails on your phone. I can do this on my phone while I'm helping students. Because I want my parents to have a good interaction with me when I call them. So when my name or my number pops up on their phone, they don't save me as the teacher with the mess. They're not afraid to answer that phone call. Or they're not anxious when I call. They're like, oh, this Miss such and such. She probably just calling me because of X, Y, and Z. We've had a good interaction. And I want my interaction with my parents to be good because I want this to be a team effort. Whatever the reason I'm calling you, I want to be calling you because of something that we're going to work together to make sure that your student is successful. When you're addressing the bad, you want to make sure that you're addressing the behavior and not the child. You don't want to say, well, your child just don't know how to act. Because now you're attacking the parenting skills. I want to address what the behavior is. So for example, KJ is struggling with staying on task. I'm not going to say that KJ is lazy. No, the behavior I see in my classroom that I do not want to see is him struggling with staying on task. I'm going to address the behavior, not the child. Because if I say that KJ is lazy, oh, that conversation going to turn around real quick. Because if you call my phone and tell me that my child is lazy or my child don't know how to act, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a big problem. But if you call my phone and say, oh, KJ doesn't know how to stay on task, all right, so that's the behavior that I can either fix at home, I can tell you how to fix it at the school, or we can work on a solution for that behavior. So we want to use the sandwich method if it's our first time calling a parent and it's about something bad. You want to say something good about the child, address the behavior, then something else good about the child. I don't care if the only thing you can think about is the child has the best shoes you ever seen. Hey, Ms. Jones, I'm calling about KJ. I do want to let you know that KJ has some of the flyest shoes I've ever seen. Every day he has a different color. And I asked him, where you get the shoes from? Then address the behavior. Say something good about the child. The parents are sending you their best. So don't attack their child. Always attack the behavior. We don't always want to call the parents for bad things. We do want to call the parents for good things. Good things that happen in class. For the child that know how to behave all the time. So just say I have Emily. Emily always on task. Always doing her work. Turns everything in on time. I can still call Emily's parents and let them know that she's doing a good job. Because the students that behave well in class and do what they're supposed to do deserve a phone call as well. Also, if KJ had a good day, I can call home. Hey, Miss Jones, it's Miss Such Such again. Calling about KJ. You know, ask how she's doing. And I just want to let you know KJ had a really good day today. KJ was on task. I didn't have to get on at KJ. And he was helping his classmates. I just want to let you know that he was doing good today. I hope you have a good rest of your day and hang up the phone. That took me maybe a minute and a half. Call about good things, whether it's for the child that's always good because they deserve it, or the child that sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. Catch them on that good day. Because if you call home and I get home and my mom like, oh, your teacher called for you, I'm so proud of you, then maybe tomorrow I'm going to behave again. Because maybe you'll call my mama again at the end of the week. And maybe I'm getting rewarded at home for behaving. So now the teacher's not calling my house for bad things. She's now calling for good things. So when you're trying to think about communicating with parents, make sure that you have positive contact with those parents as well. And calling parents about positive things helps build that rapport with the parent. You're not always blowing up their phone just because their child is not behaving in class. You could be blowing up their phone for good things as well. They're like, girl, she probably calling to tell me how good my child doing. They get excited about that. They're less anxious when they see that number on their phone. If a number pops up on your phone and every time you answer that phone is bad news, you're not going to want to answer that phone. You're probably going to send them to voicemail. So let's make sure that we're calling for good things as well. Also, when you're calling about behavior issues, you want to make sure that you're an active listener and you make sure that your ego doesn't get on that phone call with you. Because when you're calling a parent to address the behavior of their child, it's about that child's behavior. It's not about you. And it's not about who the child is as a person. And it's not about who the parent is as a person. Our whole goal is to address the behavior and find a solution. So when you're talking to the parent and you're asking them for solutions, make sure that you're actively listening to what the parent is saying. Don't just be ready to respond. Make sure that you're hearing what they're saying. You could repeat, Ms. Jones, so what you're saying is anytime that KJ is off task, you want me to remind him that you're just one phone call away? Make sure that you're understanding what the parent is asking. So when you send that follow-up email from your conversation, you know exactly what was said and not what you thought you heard. And by not allowing your ego to get on the phone with you, if you call and the parent's defensive and be like, why are these teachers always calling me because KJ is bad? I can't stand this school. The parent is frustrated. The parent's not frustrated with you. The parent is just frustrated with their child and maybe not knowing what to do or how to address these behaviors that help their child be successful at school. So as long as I don't let my ego get on the phone, I'm not going to take that personal. I'm going to listen to the parent and see if we can find a solution. If I let my ego get on the phone with me, next thing you know, me and the parent argue. And that was not my goal when I got on the phone. My goal was to make sure that KJ was going to be successful in my classroom, not to argue with the parent. So leave your ego at the door. It shouldn't be in that classroom with you at all. But if you bought your ego that day, don't let it get on that phone call with you. Don't do it. And if the parent is getting defensive, you might want to remind them, hey, Ms. Jones, I'm calling because we both want what's best for your child. So when I say that we're working together as a team, it's not about me. It's not about Ms. Jones. It's about KJ's behavior and how he can be successful. We want what's best for your child. A lot of times the parents are like, okay, they calm down. They're not as defensive. And maybe we can work through this issue that we're having. So another thing when I was talking about leaving your ego at the door, I was victorious for emailing my parents. That's how I communicated with them the quickest. Yes, sometimes I would call them, but a lot of times I'm going to send you an email. And after I find out their email works, it's over. Anytime I have an issue or if I want to tell you something good, I'm going to email you. So I had this one particular parent who would email me 3 times a week, either about her child's grades or how she's doing in class. And I always responded. And I'm talking about the same day. So one time she emails me and said that she wants a conference with me, her child, and her husband. I'm like, a conference? Like, lady, what else could you want? Anytime you ask me about this child's grades, I let you know. Anytime you ask me what's missing, I let you know. Ask me how she behaved. I'm right on it. What else can we have to talk about? So the day of the conference, the child comes in, the parents come in, they come sit down and talk. And me, I was a little on defense because I'm like, what else do we have to talk about? What else could the problem be? You're already in my email several times a week. What else could we talk about? So we sit down and she told her daughter, I called this conference today to let you know that the people sitting right here in this room is rooting for you and want you to be successful. Me and your father and your teacher. Every time I email her about X, Y, and Z, she's on it and she makes sure that I am up to date what's going on with you in class. She goes over and beyond. And what we need is for you to go over and beyond. And I was like, I would have never thought that the conference was about her just showing her daughter that she had a team behind her, want her to be successful, and that would show up for her, and she needed her daughter to show up for herself. So I could have came in that conference with an attitude. I'm like, I'm tired of y'all, or saying I didn't want to talk to them. But the parent just wanted the child to know that she had people rooting in her corner, and she just needed her to push herself to keep moving. So the meeting wasn't about me. It wasn't about me and my ego. It was about her family dynamic and her showing her child that they were there for her. Did it take time out my schedule? Yes. But was it worth it? Yes. Because what? That daughter is starting to slowly get her life together. She just needs to know that there are people rooting for her and not rooting against her. And that slowly changed her daughter's behavior and how she reacted when turning her assignments in, making sure they were on time. Then she started coming up to me, hey, is there anything else I need to do? It's very hard to do things without the parent. That's why parent communication is so important. If you can get that parent on the phone or get them through email or get them through text message, do it. Especially if you get those parents who want their child to succeed and they want to be involved as much as they can and have the time to, but they just need some help. Now, this other story where I had to make sure that my ego was checked was when I had a parent call me when she thought I put my hands on her child. So this is my first year teaching. I was teaching 4th grade, elementary. And when the students left to like get on the bus and stuff, sometimes we had to go outside with the students. So I was outside, I like to observe and just see what's going on. And I could see students over there going back and forth. And a lot of times I didn't jump into stuff because children need to know how to settle disputes themselves. As long as nobody was getting hurt or they were being unsafe, I just sit back and just to see what, what's gonna happen. But then I was just starting seeing them getting in their faces and stuff like, oh, these kids about to fight. So I went over there to the student I had, grabbed him by the loop on his backpack. So the backpack, you know how they have this loop where you can hang it up on a hook? Grabbed him by the loop on his backpack, pulled him back. Told the other students, go get on your bus. Told him, you need to calm down because he was one of my firecracker childs. He get upset and he ready to flip desk and tell the whole school up. You need to calm down. Go get on the bus. I let him go. I'm in my classroom getting myself together to leave and I get a phone call on the phone. So I'm like, hello, this is Miss Such, how may I help you? The kids came home and telling me that you put your hands on my child. You don't put your hands on my child. She just going off about me putting her hand on a child. Now, if I was outside of work, this might have turned into a whole different conversation. Because you ain't asked me how I was doing, nothing, just going straight off. So I'm just listening to what she's saying. So then she finally finished what she was saying and then lets me talk. And so I was like, ma'am, I didn't put my hands on your child. Your child was about to get in a fight. And I didn't want to have to write him up for being in a fight. I grabbed him by the loop on his backpack and pulled him away from the fight. Asked him to calm down. When he calmed down, I let him get on his bus and go home. You know what that parent said to me? Oh, and then hung up. Hung up. Now, that conversation could have went all the way left. When she started popping off, I could have popped off right behind her. But I needed to keep in mind, I'm at work for one. So I need to be professional. And two, that conversation, that phone call wasn't about me. It was about something that she heard and she was coming to the defense for her child. So that conversation could have went very left, but it didn't because I didn't let my ego get in the way. Now, my whole goal as a teacher was to make sure that communication to my parents was easy. So I started off by sending out a weekly email. I would use my work email and I would make a template of what was going on for that week. I would let the parents know what are we learning, if any assignments will be due, if we were having any tests. And then I would link different videos that were on the topics that we would be discussing. That was probably links to like YouTube. We was using a program called iExcel. So I would let them know which skills the student could go over on iExcel to help them be successful. Now, yes, the parent could have went on YouTube and searched up the skill I told them and found it themselves. But I believe it mattered coming from me. Giving them the sources and all they had to do was click a link. That's it. Trying to make it easier for the parent and for the parent to have less questions from me as their child's teacher. So I was communicating and trying to take out some of those things that the parent would normally contact me about because they want to know what's going on with their child's education. They can once say that, oh, their teacher cares. They always send me updates of what's going on. And I will get some parents they'll email me back and say thank you for the email, or they'll email me back and ask a few questions. The parents heard from me a lot. They knew my name. They knew I was their child's math teacher. And it started building a connection that I cared enough to make sure that they were informed. I would save this template in my Google Docs. And then we had to at least know the topics that we were doing for the month. So then I could go ahead and take this template and then edit it. Just take out, okay, this week we're talking about fractions, decimals, percents. And then put in all the videos for fractions, decimals, and percents. And what iExcel skill your child could work on. And then all I had to do each week was go in there, copy, paste, and send the email to the parents. Some of your email systems may have a scheduled email. And maybe you could just schedule these emails to be sent out whatever week you want to send out. And if you need to go in and edit it, you could edit it. But it saved me a lot of time because I didn't have to sit down and write all this out. I just knew that, hey, I want this sent out on Mondays. So on Mondays, I know that my goal is to sit down on my computer before I start work, send this email out to the parents so at least they have that information. At the end of my emails, I would tell the parents, feel free to email me with any questions or concerns. I never put my school work number there because I didn't want them calling me. I didn't have time for phone calls. Would I call parents? Yes. Would parents find my number anyway or get transferred to my classroom? Yes. But I knew the most efficient way for me to communicate with a parent was going to be through email. Now, I did have some parents that let me know, hey, I prefer you call me or I prefer you text me if I have a problem with the child. So I was using an app too that's called Class Dojo that I could text the parents through. Because me, I'm not giving you my personal number. You have my work email, you can find my work number, and we had Dojo. So there was plenty of ways to contact me. But what you weren't about to do was call my phone. Because when school hours were over, I didn't answer emails, text messages, or anything until the next day. Because I didn't want to let the parents think it was okay to text me or call me at any time of the night. No. My dad ended at 4:15. That's the last time you was going to hear from me until 7 o'clock the next day. I didn't play that. And you have to set boundaries so that your work life doesn't flow into your personal life. Yes, you want to be helpful. Yes, you want to be there for their child or for your students, but there has to be some boundaries. Hey, I respond to emails, any problems, anything between the hours of 7 and 4:15. If it comes anytime between that or the weekend, I'll get back to you the next business day. Set those boundaries so parents won't try to cross the boundaries. And when they do cross that boundary and they send you an email at 5:30 and think you're going to respond, they'll know I'm not going to get a response to her until 7 o'clock in the morning. Make sure you set those boundaries with parents so you won't be dealing with issues outside of work hours. Next thing, when it comes down to parent communication, make sure you document anything and everything, no matter how small it is. You need to have written documentation that you communicated with this parent. One, the schools that I was with, you had to have some form that you could turn in to say that you communicated with parents. When I was at various schools that I worked at, they didn't give us any form to document that we talked to parents. So I created my own. I knew what was expected for them to know, and that's what I did. Because I've had times where parents will come and say, I've never heard from that math teacher. Who? I done talked to you through Dojo. I done talked to you through my school email. One day I tried to call you. I left a voicemail, never heard back. Because one thing you're not going to do is say, I didn't do my job. And the only way for me to prove that I did my job is to document everything. So if anything ever came up, I had my documentation. But I always made some type of spreadsheet to document that I talked to this parent and what we talked about. I've heard that now schools have where they have a system where if you call a parent, it automatically transcribes everything you talked about with that parent and it saves it somewhere, which is good if their school district has that type of money to invest in those type of programs. But if they do not, I'm going to share with you a spreadsheet that I've made and I've used to document my conversation with parents just to make my life a little easier. So I had it right there and I could pull it up and give it to my admin anytime they requested it. Okay, so let's get this Google Sheet real quick. Like I've been saying, the date, the time, like right here I made it where you can click on here and put what the date was. You can click the date. Put the time, the student name, the parent or guardian name, because sometimes you may not talk to their parent. You may talk to their guardian. You may talk to the aunt. Whoever you talk to when you call, put that person's name. And then you could type in reasons and why that you called the parent. Called because of off-task behavior. Can write that down. Then it says the method. My drop down, I'm going to say that I did a phone call. However you contacted the parent, you're going to put that. And then the type, was it positive or negative? If I'm talking about off-task behavior, it's negative. Was it successful? Yes, no, or they sent me the voicemail. Yes, because I talked to Aunt Kathy. And then do I need to follow up? No, because Aunt Kathy says she's going to handle it. And I can put this in my notes too, that Aunt Kathy said she would handle it. And then it automatically drops down so it'll show you everything that you said. On here, you could change what period you have. So say I have somebody first period, I can put on here a second period. You can click on this drop down right here and you can rename it. And say if I had 8 periods, I can go here and click duplicate and it'll give me another one of these sheets. And I can just rename it. Say this is going to be 8th period. And so then I'll have tabs for each of my classes and I can document on those tabs. Now, if you're feeling fancy, you can go here for student name and make it a drop down and putting each of your children's names for that class period. It's really up to you and how you want to customize it. But this tracker made my life so much easier because I had one place I knew I could go to and document my parent communication. I could email this file to my admin if they wanted it. I could print it out if I wanted to. But I always make sure I cover my behind. Document, document, document. This Google Sheet will be available on my website, which I'm going to put it right here, for you to use for the parent communication. This is going to be a bundle. So it will also come with a script to help you follow when you're calling a parent. If you're nervous about calling a parent, it gives you like what's the good thing, how you address the unwanted behavior, and how do you end with a good thing. It gives you step-by-step of what to say and just give you a little bit more confidence when you're calling a parent. And it also comes with a follow-up email or text, depending on how you want to send it, about what was talked about and what's your next actionable steps. So you'll be able to find this under the Confident Parent Communication Tool. If your biggest problem is, I just don't know what parent to contact, how to start contacting parents, I know I should start contacting parents, but when? Because some schools make it where you need to contact at least X number of parents in a month, okay? So here's a suggestion of what you could do. And usually I start with contacting the most parents with the classes that I have the most disruptive students, because I want to see if calling home works to correct this behavior before I have to put other things in place. So I tell those classes, like, hey, I've tried all I can, so I'm about to start calling parents. And I'm just gonna let you know this is how it's gonna work. I'm telling them I'm calling parents on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Those are my days that I'm gonna set aside after school to call parents. And you're going to decide, you as being the students, you're gonna decide if it's for good or bad. So I'm gonna take all my students in their classroom and I'm gonna put their names in a picker wheel. So go to Google, type in picker wheel, and you can just type all your students' name in for their class period. And I'm gonna tell them every Tuesdays and Wednesdays at the end of class, I'm gonna spin this wheel. And I'm gonna pick 2 names out of this class on Tuesdays, 2 names out on Wednesday. Depending on how you behave this week, I'm gonna call your parent for a positive thing and let them know that you rocking and rolling and you're on target. Or I'm gonna call your parent and let them know how you've been acting in my class. You're gonna decide why I call your parent. But every Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm picking 2 names and I'm calling those 2 parents. And then if I called your parent already, say I pulled KJ's name the first Tuesday, I'm gonna put KJ's name in a bucket, right? I'm gonna take him out that picker wheel and I'm gonna put him in a bucket. So then I'm gonna say that I'm still gonna call 2 parents on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, but on Tuesday or Wednesday or both days, I'm gonna pick a random name out of this bucket. So that means if I've already called your parent, don't think that you're out the loop or that you're off. Because if I pick your name out this bucket, I'm calling the extra parent today. And guess what? It's KJ's again. So the students, especially if they're worried about you calling home and they know their parents don't play, they're gonna start changing their behavior because they never know if their name's gonna be on that picker wheel and they're gonna get picked, or if their name's gonna be pulled again out of their bucket. So this way, I've called 2 parents on Tuesday, 2 parents on Wednesday. That's 4 parents a week. Plus, if I do a random pick out of this bucket each day, that gives me 6 parents per week. So by the end of the month, I'm probably gonna talk to all the parents. Probably. The students really don't know whose name is gonna get picked, and they don't want the day their name gets picked to be a day that they were acting up. A 30-day challenge. Do that for 30 days and watch their behavior in your classroom change. With anything you do with students in the classroom, there's gonna be some outliers. There's gonna be probably 2 or 3 students in there that they do not care. Call home. They're not scared of their parents. And that's when you have to use your toolkit and pull in different strategies when calling home doesn't work. If you're in middle school or high school, are they involved in athletics? Because if they are, go talk to the coach. Are they extracurricular, drama, band, choir? Maybe you should go talk to their choir teacher, their band teacher, their drama teacher. Because some adult in that child's life, they care about. I'll ask a student, when I look at their contact log, I'll say, who you want me to call, your mama or your daddy? They'll say, call my daddy. I'm definitely calling the mama. Because daddy ain't gonna do nothing. If you tell me to call daddy, daddy's not gonna be the one to do anything. I'm calling mama. And if you don't know what to do, that you're just lost with parent communication, I do offer a one-on-one call that we can sit down and look at your parent communication or the lack thereof and put a plan in place together to make sure that your students are being successful. So you can find it on my site as well. At the end of the day, parent communication is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent, respectful, and proactive. Because when parents feel like you're on their side, everything changes. Let me know in the comments, what's the craziest parent interaction that you've had? Because I know I can't be the only one. Thank you so much for taking your time out to watch this video. Make sure that you're subscribed to my channel for more teacher advice. And share this with anybody that you think it could help. And teachers, you got this. Keep pressing forward and make sure that the students are at the focus every single day. And don't forget to leave that ego at the door. And you already know. Until next time, peace out.